even though what I'm doing with CE5 is what I'm most ridiculed for, it was the project that got the most respect and attention from the intelligence community because they knew it was real. They knew the science of consciousness is real. They knew that these ET civilizations utilize communication technologies that interface with thought and telepathy and consciousness. They all know this. This is an open secret in the intelligence community. We all think that power is derived from your weapon system, your financial clout, the usual materialistic paradigm. The reason that the deeper elements of the intelligence community have this intense interest in it and don't want the public to know is that, first of all, it is extremely efficient spycraft, which they don't want others to have. Secondly, they know that if people understood the power of consciousness and of mass consciousness, they would be able to completely change the direction of the planet. That is, to me, the big secret.
Most people have heard of the random number generator studies through the Global Consciousness Project.
A question tonight: can you actually measure the emotional outpouring in a worldwide crisis?
Sometimes scientists think that they have done just that. Their machines and computers found a bizarre pattern right after several global disasters.
This was an experiment in which researchers placed dozens of random number generators around the world and analyzed their data to see if they could discover anything about global or collective consciousness.
On September 11th, a few hours before the first plane struck, this network of random number generators became more coherent. Less random and more coherent.
It may sound bizarre, but Dr. Nelson and his team have been at this for the better part of a decade. The first spike showed up in 1997 with the death of Princess Diana. Other events like the Concorde crash, the Madrid train bombing, and the Pope's funeral all registered on those random number generators. But early on the morning of September 11th, the data went off the charts.
The odds of this being a coincidence is less than 1 in 100 billion. This shows there is a deep relationship between collective consciousness and the physical world.
Sociology studies of meditators, where they go into a community, say you have a town of 200,000 people, and they would send in 1% of the population equivalent, 2,000 people, to go into deep meditation. And they found that emergency room visits declined, violent crimes declined, robberies, all kinds of negative behaviors declined, even though those people didn't even know they were in the city. Because there is this resonant effect through the force, if you want to look at it that way, through this entangled, interwoven consciousness field. And people who didn't even know these meditators were there became more ordered, more peaceful, more happy, etc., and so on.
This was actually based on the studies done in quantum physics in which a container of helium was cooled down to absolute zero. When only 1% of the helium became aligned to coherent, the entire container went through a phase transition, instantly shifting into coherence and taking on almost magical properties, a state called superfluidity.
So there was this transformation at that 1% point. When a critical mass of people, and whether it's 1% or a fraction of that, depends on the state of consciousness of those who are practicing the meditation or a prayer or coherence. But at that point, you can shift an entire civilization. If we all become coherent, just 1% of us, like a molecule of helium, and we become aligned and coherent and move in the right direction, it will transform the other 99%, even though they don't know that we're doing it. And that's the beauty and the power of the structure of non-locality in consciousness, is that it's all interwoven, but there's enormous power when you're operating at that deeper level of consciousness. And that the intelligence community is very much afraid of, because that's something, A, they cannot control, and B, it would transcend their ability to alter the outcome. I'll tell a really funny story. In '92, the head of Army intelligence and a few of his minions intercepted me and took me to a hotel room, very threatening. There was a National Security Agency person there, CIA people. They were saying, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Teaching people to bypass our systems and contact these civilizations." I said, "I don't recognize your authority over this matter." And then I looked them in the eyes and I said, "I'm not afraid of you, because I died when I was 17 and I know there is no death. I don't care about your money. And I've had direct contact with these civilizations, so you can't deceive me about who they are and why they're here. And the general just sat back like this and went, well, we know exactly who this son of a bitch is. And I said, yes, so this is what we're going to do. It was very frustrating for them. But later, a member of one of the European royal families, who I don't want to name, who was involved with that crowd, came up to me and she said, you know, they're very jealous of what you and your team are doing. I said, jealous of what? These are the most powerful people. And he says, no, they know that you guys actually collectively have all the power. And they wish they could do what you're doing, but they're in the box of this national security state program that they cannot escape from, and you're free. You're a free agent. You're free to do wonderful things, and they're not. And they're really jealous of what you guys are doing. It was a real insight into the sad psychology of the people who are in this pinched, small world. So I say to the public, you should be happy that you're not part of all of that. You have the freedom to do things they can never do. So let's do it.
It's good to know that we have the tools we need when we apply CE5 protocols. So anybody can do it, no matter where you're from, what background. You can just learn the protocols. We have a lot of friends from around the world who've never been on one of these expeditions, and they just go online and use the protocols and apply them and have wonderful experiences.
People from all walks of life are becoming interstellar ambassadors and experiencing transcendent states of consciousness in union with these beings. Thousands are making contact by simply using the guided meditation in the CE5 Contact app. It's up to the children of Earth to become active participants in the unfolding of our universe and not leave it to the power elite. Once we reach a critical mass of people, a coherent and enlightened minority can transform the rest of humanity instantly.
It's more about what your intent is. Do you have a pure heart, for lack of a better word? Do you have a clearness in your mind and in your heart? Can you bring your mind and heart into resonance together and invite these civilizations to connect with you in this great purpose, this great journey that we're launching on as a civilization where we are going to become interstellar? Interestingly, there was a colonel named Philip Corso, and Colonel Corso wrote a book the day after Roswell, and one of the events that wasn't known was this encounter he had with an ET at White Sands missile range, and right not far from where the first atomic bomb was dropped. And this was 1956, and an interstellar vehicle came in and it landed. So he gets in his Jeep, rushes out there, it's his young, brash colonel, and has a meeting, an encounter with this ET. At a certain point, the ET asked the colonel to switch off these radar systems that had piggybacked on them, electronic warfare systems that were knocking these spacecraft down. And the colonel leaned in and said, "What's in it for me?" And the ET looked at him and said, "A new world, if you can take it."